All right, we are going to wrap up week 3 with dividing. The thing you need to remember, the example you see on the screen is not bad, but when it comes to long division, just remember it involves a lot of trial and error, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let's take this example because it's not too bad. We've got x to the 5th plus 24x to the 4th minus 12x to the 3rd, all divided by 6x. And all you have to do is remember to take each of these terms in the problem, including, make sure you grab the sign of what's in front of it, and divide each term by that 6x. Okay, so this is the procedure to use if you are dividing by a monomial, all right, just one term. And then all you have to do is remember the exponent rules that we've already talked about, how to reduce a fraction, which you've already learned, and it really won't be too bad. So I've got x to the 5th over 6x, which means 1/6, x to the 4th, right, because that's an understood exponent of 1. Hard to see there. The second term is 4x to the 3rd, because 24 over 6 is 4, and then 12 over 6 is 2. Of course, it's negative. And then x to the 3rd over x to the 1st is x to the 2nd, and then that's our final answer right here. So hopefully that doesn't look too bad to you. It'll take practice before it gets really comfortable, but hopefully not too bad because there's really no new rules here. Here's another example where we're just multiplying by that monomial, and you can see I just took each term and divided it by that -7a squared b, and then applied the exponent rules that I already learned. Now let's talk about dividing by a binomial, because now we're going to be talking about long division. I do need to caution you, some people, I don't know quite how, but they try to somehow do these by factoring, which we haven't learned yet. We're going to learn factoring next week, so please don't try to do this by factoring, by reading ahead. This skill involves long division, and I do need to see your work with long division. So if you see a problem like this where we are dividing by a binomial like x plus 3, notice where I'm putting everything. Okay, that x plus 3 is out here. It's the divisor. This part is the dividend, so that's inside the division symbol, and our answer is going to go up top. So I'm going to go to the next slide where I'm going to walk you through all of it. I think that's easier than if I split it up into 2 slides. Okay, so this is the whole problem solved, and I'm going to show you what I did with each step. Okay? All right, first of all, I'm thinking to myself, what times x plus 3 will give me a first term of x squared? All right, if I pick x, I'm going to get a first term of x squared, and then when I subtract, that first term will drop out. That's the key to the whole thing, okay? Because this works just like long division that you learned a bazillion years ago. And if you remember when you learned division a bazillion years ago, you had to pick something, multiply back, and hope, okay? And then when you got really good at it, there was a lot less hope involved, your guesses got better. That's what's going to happen here. So a lot of people kind of get frustrated because you have to erase. There's some trial and error. Well, it's okay. You're going to start it on scratch paper, and then you'll type it in, you know, your final solution you'll type in with your work. And just keep in mind, if you have trouble typing this, just ask me. I can give you an example so you can kind of replace your numbers. But otherwise, you can just do it in writing on your scratch paper and take a picture with your phone and upload it that way. That works for me. Okay? So hopefully that puts your mind at ease with that aspect of it. But now let's continue working through this problem. So I picked x because when I multiply back, I got x squared. And right there I'm thinking I'm in good shape. I'm going to continue. So remember, when I multiply back, I'm multiplying by each term. So I've got x squared plus 3x right here. Okay, now what do? I subtract. Very important. I subtract just like we did in regular long division. And what does that subtraction do? It really changes the sign of everything. So I'm going to make it addition. I'm just going to change the signs. Okay? So x squared minus x squared is 0. Perfect. 7x minus 3x is 4x. Very good. Bring down my next term. You can even draw an arrow if you want to. I don't care. All right, so what am I going to do now? I'm going to come up here and think, what times x is 4x? because when I subtract, I want that first term to drop out. So if I pick 4, I get 4x, which is what I wanted, plus 12. All right, so that's what I have when I multiply back. And now I'm going to subtract. Okay, so that just means I'm changing all the signs. 4x minus 4x is 0. That's why I picked it. 12 minus 12 is 0, which is a coincidence. That's fine. We can have a remainder. There's nothing wrong with that. But that indeed does mean we have no remainder. So my answer is right here. Just like with regular long division, your answer was right up there at the top. That's your quotient. Okay? All right, let's talk about this one. This one does have a remainder. That's the only difference. It's no harder. I'm looking at this. I've set it up. I've got my 3x minus 2 on the outside, the 15x squared minus 22x plus 14 on the inside. Remember, by the way, if you have a term that's missing on the inside, like let's say I didn't have an x term, I'd have to put a 0x term just so everything stays lined up. So I'm thinking, what times 3x is going to be 15x squared so that when I subtract, it drops to 0, drops out. So 5x is the choice I'm going to make because look what happens. 5x times 3x is 15x squared. 5x times negative 2 is negative 10x. So here I go. Now I'm subtracting. This is probably what most people miss if they're going to miss something. So I don't want that to be you. So when I subtract, it's the same thing as adding the opposite. Just change all the signs. 15x squared minus 15x squared is 0. If that were not the case, I'd have to try something else. So I'm in good shape. Negative 22x plus 10x is negative 12x. Bring the next number down. And we're just going to repeat this process over and over until we finish the problem. But here we just have one more step. So let's erase all that. All right, now I'm thinking, what times 3x will give me negative 12x? And the answer is negative 4. Negative 4 times 3x is negative 12x, and then I just continue. Negative 4 times negative 2 is plus 8. You're ahead of me, aren't you? You're already thinking subtract, which means add the opposite, so change the signs. Okay, so that minus 12 is a big, big plus. So I'm just going to erase that just to show you what I mean. Okay, that minus right there, that's a big plus. So negative 12x plus 12x is 0. Good, that's why I picked it. 14 minus 8 is 6. What I don't want you to do is write 5x minus 4 remainder 6. I'm going to cross that out because that is not what you need to do. Even though you did that in a past life, I don't want you to do that here because we know how to deal with that now. All right, remember when you deal with remainders now, we can deal with it in fractional form. So it's very simple. You just take your remainder and put it over this binomial on the outside, and then you're done. Now, do you know how to check? Hold on, let me just talk about that for a second. To check, all you have to do is multiply 5x minus 4 times 3x minus 2. I'm thinking FOIL already. And then add that remainder. And when you do, you should have the number you had when you started, the 15x squared minus 22x plus 14. Here's another example. I won't walk you all the way through it, but it does illustrate the importance of those two 0 placeholders you see. If you look at the original problem, I had a 5th term, a 4th term, no 3rd term, and no constant. Right, just a number with no letter. I didn't have that. So I put in those 0 placeholders, and as you work this one through, doing that kept everything lined up really nicely. So I really encourage you to do that. And again, we had remainder, but no big deal. We know how to handle that now. Right? So it does take practice. Don't let long division scare you. Just don't not do it. It's a problem on the quiz. You'll probably have one assigned on your discussion work, your homework. Just don't be afraid of it. Conquer that fear now so that you don't miss the points on the quiz, okay? And as always, questions are welcome, and I appreciate you joining me for this video.